You as a group in your application process have reported that your main challenges are related with human resources. Surprisingly, it was not the reporting and administration, but actually human resources. Of course, the reporting and administration is on the second place, and also as important parts of the challenges, procurement and partnership and cooperation. Only actually, I think 1 or 2 comments were related with, for example, the target groups or visibility. So what actually bothers you concerning the human resources? And I already reflected on that a bit. It's lack of professionals and full-time staff. And that is really closely connected with the continuation of our growth. So it's not something that now in the training on project management we can deal with it, but it's a challenge that you are aware of it, and something definitely that should be something that you will actually investing time and resources of actually ensuring the so-called permanent staff. What I noticed in many projects, especially those that are EU funded, because they are large, and then they are bringing you a significant amount of funds, and then organizations are hiring external experts to work as a project managers. This is fine, this is legal, it's not a problem with that, especially if you are not so much experienced in the management. The only what you have to take care in that segment is how you will monitor the work of that person, how you will ensure transfer of the knowledge of that person to other team members, and what will happen once project ends. Let's imagine that we have a project lasting for 12 months, and then that person is leaving. Practically, that person will prepare the final report, and then the person is gone. And then 12 months later, you have the monitoring from the side of the donor on the results or sustainability of their project. Very often, and I experienced that in North Macedonia, it's a problem because there is no person that can provide details about the project implementation, because that was just a project manager hired on that particular duration. And then that is a problem. So that's definitely something that we have to work on, meaning ensuring that such people stay in our organizations. But even if we are in a position that they will be just permanently on projects, we have to ensure so-called institutional memory. And that's very much connected with our data management system, monitoring system, and so on. Some other challenges are more related to day-to-day, like delegation of the tasks, division of the work, and we will have one exercise to work on that and to discuss that. Concerning the reporting and administration, as already some of you in this introduction mentioned, suddenly this is a huge problem now in management of the EU actually projects. But this is something that was not so strong also in management of the other projects, meaning funded from other donors. The difference is just what some other donors were requiring comparing to those projects that are EU funded. So reporting per indicators is not some specialty for the EU funded projects. So we were having indicators at such obligations per other donors as well, but usually we were not asked to prove that with the documents, and that is a huge the huge difference. That is why we have to invest timing and resources in development systems on data management, especially document management. How we are, what information we need to collect, how we are collecting, how we are storing, and ensuring that when we come to the point of the reporting, we have actually documents that are needed. One of the comments very often is related with Prague requirements. So since some of you have more experience and some of you just at the beginning of your management career, I will briefly explain what is Prague, because it's mentioned several times. Prague is actually a document created by European Commission that served as a practical guide to all institutions involved in management of the projects funded by EU. This is not so much connected with the EU funds in the EU member states, but for those countries like North Macedonia that are actually in the accession process, we are applying this guide as a guiding document for preparation of tenders, funding, implementation of the projects, and so on. This document is just a framework, Ramkata. So it does not provide us number of details that we are actually developing at the level of our management in our organizations. However, it gives us mainly instructions on how to organize our work transparently. And of course, it provides us some documents, some forms to be used in that process. Well, when we talk about the procurement, I must admit that when I meet a person who says, I adore procurement, then I'm suspicious. Because the procurement is always like on this picture, something that is boring, lots of work, lots of administration, and always is something missing. And it's always some tension about the procurement. We have a special session on it. What I can tell you immediately, what are the areas on which we can work concerning how to improve our procurement to not be so painful, is to actually start think less on the what is the procedure and document I have to fill in, but more what actually I am buying, what service I need, or which equipment we need, and how we can actually find the best provider or supplier. Partnership and cooperation also we discussed during this introduction. Yes, some of you that are already involved in management of EU funded projects, especially with the state institutions, I experience these delays in provision of responses, of information, waiting on decisions. And that is something that we usually cannot, from the point of the project management, affect. However, our good project management and especially ensuring the existence of the information, of the documentation, and our respect of the deadlines can actually support us in this process that really tend to be very challenging at some points. Investment into cooperation with institutions that are serving as our project partners and stakeholders should be part of the work of the proposal development and preparatory actions, and not something that we are dealing with because next week we are having a conference and we want that someone from the institution attend the conference. And then we are surprised why they are not, for example, responding, or no one is coming, etc. So development is a process, and it actually requires constant improvements in our performance, in our communication, in our visibility in community, cooperation with institutions. Doesn't matter whether they are just the stakeholders or they're even our project partners. And few other things at the end related with the low interest of media. And I will reflect that on this in the session on visibility. We actually, in funded project and especially in new funded projects, have decent funds to ensure good visibility. However, visibility is very often evaluated as a poor. So a project is not so much visible in the public, in the media, in local community, and so on. And that is again because, like in a procurement, we are more focused how to fulfill our contractual requirement, which logo has to be where, and less on what actually messages we want to send out to the public and how we can get the best of the funds that we have for the visibility to promote our work. For example, this web platform for the management should be that Innovation Center is developing, something that should be really promoted as a great achievement, not just organization which is working on innovations. These are differences that can actually contribute to improvement of the overall success in the visibility of our work and of course our projects. When we will be talking about the monitoring and reporting, I will reflect on the target groups and selection of participants, keeping them involved, and what is the documentation that we need to collect to actually to serve to us for monitoring of the changes that are occurring at the level of the target group, and later on to ensure proper documentation for our donors. As you could notice in the introduction, several people said, yeah, we have problems in selecting people, involving them or keeping them involved and so on, because simply people are changing, the habits are changing, the interests are changing, and we actually have to monitor that and finding the ways, new ways how to, for example, approach to them and to work with them. When you start project implementation or you are in the middle of the project implementation and you report you have a problem with your target group, for the donor, that's huge problem. It's a huge question mark whether the funds are awarded to good project. Because if you said that you will work with 100 youth and then you report that you cannot mobilize more than 50, it's a huge problem. because number of the target groups is in close connection with the budget, with the funds that are awarded, you know. So that's not anymore the same project, and then that becomes actually a huge problem for you, for the donor, and for actually sustainability of the just project implementation. So we really need to be very careful when we talk about the target groups and actually presenting our knowledge and experience concerning the target group, because donors are trusting to us that we are experts for the youth, persons with disabilities, women, elderly people, etc. The last point relates with project administration, especially for the EU-funded projects and national legislation. Very often there are lots of complaints that some EU-funded requirements are not in line with the national legislation. This is something, if such actually situations exist, they have to be immediately reported to the EU representative body and to the actual national institutions responsible for the management of the EU funds. But if that's really the case, because lots of situations that we think that are the cases are at the end actually not explored or justified enough. Often, if the national legislation is stricter than the EU rules, then it's allowed to work according to the national legislation rules and procedures.